So hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Hope, and you clicked on this video because you want to know what the pros and cons of DC are. So let's get into that. Okay, my own search of looking for places to live, I have watched some other videos of people on YouTube who do the pros and cons of living in their city, and I found them to be very helpful with helping determine where my next move is going to be. And so I just wanted to make this video for people who are considering moving to DC. I'm not a DC native, but I have lived here for 4 years. Yeah, I think it's going to be 4 years. It was 4 years in August. So I do date a DC native, so I feel like I have a native experience, I guess, because I am intimately connected to someone who is a native. So yeah, I'm going to start with my list. These are just my personal opinions, but I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. So the first pro is that it's vegan and vegetarian friendly. That was really important to me because, that is really important to me because I'm mostly plant-based, and so there are a lot of places in DC that you can eat that have like good vegan and vegetarian food. It also has a lot of international food places because there's just so many people here, like Ethiopian people, Salvadorians, Jamaicans, Asians, Thai people. How do you say Taiwanese? What do you call Thai people? Thaians? I don't know. Thai food, it's Japanese. Like, there's just all type of food here. And so there's definitely vegan and vegetarian options as well. That is a pro for me. Another pro is the minimum wage is higher here. It's $15. I know I'm from the South, and the minimum wage in the South is $7.25. Some places $8.25, and so that $15 definitely raises the higher income level, and the median income level is higher here. That's also a double-edged sword, and you'll know once we get to the cons. But it is a place where you can make some money if you are playing it smart. So another pro, that it's a walkable city. Transportation here is very reliable, in my opinion. I rely solely on public transportation. I use Uber, Lyft, the train. The train more so now because of, it's like COVID. I kind of stayed away from the train during the COVID, but now that things are kind of mellowing out a little bit, or at least my anxiety is a lot less than it was before, I've kind of get back on the train now. But train is super reliable, of course, with the hiccups every now and then, but like the train and the bus are really reliable. It's also a walkable city depending on where you live, and so you really don't need a car here. That's a pro for me. I'm someone who really try to have less bills as possible, and so not being able to have a car is very beneficial to me. I don't have to pay a note or insurance or anything, so that is a great pro in my opinion. So you don't need a car. You can say that money, honey, okay? Festivals. If you're someone there is a club scene here. So that's a pro, but it's not my personal pro. But there is a club scene here. You can very enjoy. A lot of places honestly are closing though because of COVID. I really don't know what U Street is gonna be like now, but that's kind of the main place where people go. I actually really like 8th Street a lot as well, and 18th Street. Those are some nicer, not nicer, but just more lax areas than U Street. U Street is very busy, and I don't really like busy. But that festival scene here is great too. Like, I'm a festival girl. I love, pre-COVID, that was like my thing. I would go to festivals. I would look up and look on Eventbrite to see, what festivals would be happening that day. And so there are like vegan and vegetarian festivals. There is the Cherry Blossom Festival. The H Street has a festival, annually. So, if you just like walking, buying, supporting vendors and local businesses and just dancing in the street, festivals are here in DC. That's definitely a pro. Another one, DC is a very networking city, and I'm going to combine these two with the networking and the Black excellence here. Particularly if you are a Black person and you are inspired by things that other Black people are doing, DC is a great place for that. There's a lot of Black success here. And my personal opinion, that's a double-edged sword as well, because I'll get to I could just say that now, because it's not necessarily a con, but there's a certain level of just like elitism here. And so you will run into that with some people you meet. I wouldn't say that that's everybody that you meet you're going to run into, but yeah, there's just some elitism here. But I think that if you are intentional about, what it is that you want, you'll find your community. But yeah, the nonetheless, when you see Black people thriving, that's super inspirational, and that's something that I really love about DC as well. So that's a pro, in as far as the networking goes. If you are an extroverted person, you will definitely, find people and, probably likely find lifelong friends, because DC is a very networking city. Like, people love to meet new people. People are very interested in knowing what you're doing, how'd you get there, all of that. And that's also a double-edged sword, because you might meet some people who only value you based on that. So the historical moments in DC, that also, like, you're at the Capitol, Washington DC is the capital, so you're gonna witness a lot of just lawmaking, change happening. You really have a front row seat to the government, and I think that that's a pro, especially if you're someone who's just interested in what's happening, in the world, and how laws are particularly affecting you in your life. I think it's pretty dope to be here, in that, and amongst all of that. And so to me, that's definitely a pro, to be able to have a front row seat to historical moments that happen, in the city. Also, the last pro I would say is just like nature. People probably wouldn't know this about DC because it's a city, but Maryland and Virginia are right here. You also have Rock Creek Park, which is within DC. But there's nature here. I love being able to have a combination of the two. I hope that when I move, because I am looking to move, but I hope that when I move, that I find a place that has like both a city and nature element. There is, waterfalls, creeks, trails, just, yeah, you have nature near you where you can just kind of unplug and get rooted and grounded when the hustle and bustle of the city, is becoming too much. So I really enjoy that. I enjoy that balance. So that's definitely a pro. So on to the cons. So I think this might be a con in most cities, because the cost of living is just going up across the nation, which I think is a I don't even know what to call it, like a human rights violation. Like, I'm not about to go on a tangent, but yes, the cost of living is high. Most people here have roommates and housemates, or are living with significant others to just cut on costs. It is extremely high here. And I think that's what I was kind of alluding to earlier about, the pay here is really well, but, the flip side of that is that it's really costly to live here unless you're being strategic. And I will say that, like, some of my later years here, I've come to understand that rooming with someone, saving on that coin definitely would kind of just help you offset some of those costs. I rent a room, and it was really the best decision that I've made when living in DC. So yeah, the affordability, the cost of living is really high, and they do have options for like affordable housing, but honestly, those options aren't really that affordable either, which is absurd. But so another con for me is the hustle and bustle, and I think that's why I said this is subjective. So I think that's something that you should consider when you're moving, if you're a person who city life. But fortunately, you have DC. You have Maryland, Virginia right next door. So if you just don't want to live in the city, you have options to just kind of live on the outskirts and just commute to the city for work. So that's like a plus. Another con is the parking. This might be the only really con, honestly. But yeah, and that goes about whether you have a car. You choose to have a car when you live here, but having a car here, you do have to struggle to find parking, or you have to pay for parking. And yeah, I think that's why I'm just like over living in cities, because they're just so congested and people are so obsessed with housing developments. Like y'all over here, y'all trying to use as much, space as y'all can to try to create housing, but then also not allow people to be able to afford it. So, people are using, airspace to create housing, like building apartment buildings on top of grocery stores and shit like that, which could be beneficial because you could literally just walk to the grocery store, go down your stairs, and the grocery store is right there. But, yeah, I don't care for it. But yeah, so that, the parking here just alludes to that other con of it just being, not really congested, but congested. DC ain't like New York or anything, but it's definitely a small place, a very small city, right dab in the middle of, Virginia and Maryland. This is DC, and this is Virginia and Maryland, so you did the math. Okay. The last con is that the market is competitive. That goes to the hustle and bustle and the networking aspect. That can work for you if you are a hustle and bustle person. If you truly are on, your P's and Q's and you're meeting people and you're getting your name out there, you can be very successful here. But if you're just not that type of person, it's going to probably be more difficult for you. I know people who have struggled to find, jobs where they just had to just simply move and to find job opportunities. But I think that people who have that personality can thrive here. There are options here, but the market is competitive, so you really have to be intentional about what it is that you want and go after it. And that was really the pros and cons of DC. I would still, the pros outweigh the cons, and I would vote DC one of the best places to live. I enjoy living here very much. It has given me a lot of things. I've grown a lot here. I've met, my love here. So it's really, I don't know, it's a great city. And although I'm ready to move, it has more to do with wanting something else, and being, just wanting something new than it has to do with just me trying to get away from a horrible place, because it's not horrible at all. So, yes, I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope that in your transition that it's as smooth as possible in coming here. I will also put a link in the description box, where there's links to this DC housing, or housing opportunities. It's a Facebook group, and I will also link another opportunity for affordable housing. And I hope that the transition is great for you and smooth as possible again. And if you have any additional questions, please feel free to email me or hit me up on Instagram, my DMs. And I will see you later in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.